Good morning. This is Melissa Ryan joining you from Cambium Counseling, and with me is my guest,
Chriseda Crow, and I am a Cuddlist certified touch practitioner, and I own Touch of Heart Cuddling.
And so I wanted to invite Chriseda. I met her a few months ago at a Connects co-working space networking event, and I hadn't heard of a professional cuddling. And so when we met, I had lots of questions and I learned a lot. And I thought it would be neat to have Chriseda really share about what's so important about the work she does, how important touch is. So first, I'd like you to go ahead and share with the audience how you got started as a professional cuddler.
Okay, so I suffered touch deprivation for a long time in a long-term relationship that I was in, and didn't know what was missing. Actually, I knew that I wanted touch, but I didn't know the physiological effects of lack of touch or touch deprivation. And so I took a short trip to Manitou Springs, of all places, and I was out of state. I lived out of state at the time, and took a trip to Manitou Springs.
I love Manitou Springs.
I know, I do too, right?
Such an awesome community.
Right?
Yes.
So
love the sparkling water.
Okay, yeah, and I did the incline. So
Nice.
On the street there was a older gentleman in a tie-dye shirt and long hair, and he was giving away free hugs. He had free hugs and advertising free hugs. And
Awesome.
I'd heard of this, and I thought, okay, is that weird? Does it feel weird to me to think that I might get a free hug? It didn't feel creepy or anything, and he's in public, and so I thought, yeah, I'm here for the Manitou Springs experience. Let's do it. So I went up to him and I said, I would love a free hug. And I think, by the way, all hugs should be free anyway. But he was offering, and he had these great big arms and great big chest, and he pulled me in, and he held me there, and it was long held. It was a long embrace, not just a quick hug like you're greeting someone. And he pulled me in and held me, and I remember exhaling at some point. And then it wasn't too long though, and it wasn't creepy at all. And I walked away feeling incredible. I felt like, wow, what an awesome experience. I felt uplifted. I mean, I was already having so much fun there anyway, but I felt even more recharged and just like, yeah, wow, wow, everything was beautiful. So I experienced that, and then a couple of months later, I had made the decision to move to Colorado, make the big move I've been planning for a while.
Hey, Danny. I just saw, sorry. We have Danny and James joining. Hello, guys.
Hey, guys. And so it was away from my ex-partner, and I'm making friends and things like that, and that's lovely. And I was having coffee with a friend, and when we parted, he gave me this long-held hug again. Again, it was just not that quick hug, but it was just, he wrapped his arms around me and held me, and very, like I said, comfortable. And I remember exhaling again. And I walk away and I thought, wow, that was another like great big long-held hug where I felt safe with these people. And I walked away feeling charged for like 2 days, it seemed like. And I thought, what is that? And I thought, why is there not an app? You have apps for everything. Why is there not an app for platonic touch? And I didn't even think in terms of platonic touch in that word. I thought to hold hands with someone, to sit next to someone and watch a movie where you're touching arms, to kind of just be in touch in a non-sexual,
Obligatory?
a non-obligatory way, non-judgmental, just be, like when I was a kid, oldest of 5 children, we piled on each other all the time, and we were just always piled up, a lot of touch. When you have children and your children are on your hip and you're carrying them around, that's a lot of touch, and it's beautiful. My children are grown. I don't see my siblings, and certainly we don't pile on each other like that any longer. And I think that's when I really started experiencing a touch deprivation. So I started doing research on are there apps, and would you get creeps, and how would you, avoid that, and how would you receive this platonic touch that feels so amazing?
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing the research, and I researched for about a year, and really tested it out. I was still closing out a business that I had prior to that, which was more corporate. And yeah, I felt so inspired by it, and I knew that I'm comfortable with touch, and I knew I had this to offer, and so ta-da!
So it evolved to today.
It evolved to today, yes.
Yes, where you're now doing this on a professional level, offering these services. So if somebody were to listen to this live and be like, yeah, that sounds like I might be struggling with touch deprivation. I'm not getting enough touch. I read, or somebody shared with me, there's a study that we need on average 4 really solid hugs a day to just meet general well-being. And so if we're not getting that, what an impact it can have on us. So how would somebody what would this process look like? How would they get in contact with you? What does that look like?
So you can go to cuddlist.com, and that's where I got my certification, and look up your state and your city and your location, wherever you are. And from there, read the profiles and feel who does it feel you're most connected with, a cuddlist in your area. And then you will fill out a form that will give general information. You will agree to a code of conduct, because we all follow a code of conduct. And that helps us create this safe, comfortable container that we can come together in to share and experience touch and explore boundaries and things like that. So the code of conduct is very important, and you'll agree to that. I would then get your contact information and then reach out to you, and we would do about a 10 or 15 minute phone interview just to make sure that we are right for each other. We go over the code of conduct again. I answer any questions that the potential clients might have. And we just get a general feeling and make sure we're on the same page, and that we can create this container where we can experience this. And then my space is ADA compliant, so it's very important to me to be able to see disabled people. I'm very comfortable with disabilities and equipment that they might have. And it's light, and there are multiple surfaces that we can begin on. We can sit. We don't even actually have to touch. If you just want to start exploring the idea of touch, platonic touch, then we can do that too. And then from there, we would explore objective and subjective boundaries in conversation first, before touch ever starts, where I might describe, to begin with, what my objective boundaries are, which would be my hard boundaries, the things that I am uncomfortable with. Say, I don't want anybody to ever put their fingers in my ears. Not that that has ever come up, but
just in case.
Doesn't feel I don't like it. It's uncomfortable for me. So, and then maybe a subjective boundary might be sometimes when I'm experiencing touch, I'm ticklish, and I don't really appreciate being tickled, and so I might, but that may not come up. So that would be more subjective. And then from there, I ask what their objective boundaries and their subjective boundaries are, and it really starts to open up communications inside of ourselves. You know, communicate with ourselves first, which is where communications should start with ourselves.
Start with yourself. So it would be really great to get. Oh, I see Duke has joined us, and he has a question. Oh, he says, "What's up?" Hey, Duke, thanks for joining us. So for those of you that are joining us, before we dive into, like you started talking about the power of touch and boundaries, I think you shared you had a question for the audience around touch.
Around touch. So think back to a time when you had a platonic, long-held embrace. It could be a hug, or maybe you just leaned in on someone, or maybe you offered touch in comfort to someone and held them 20 seconds or more. think of that and how you felt afterwards, and either offering that and experiencing that together, how you felt when you walked away, because it takes 20 seconds of an embrace to release oxytocin, and it's that oxytocin that has such amazing effects on physiologically on our bodies. And
Gotcha. You appreciate a good hug, I see, Duke. Me too. So could you talk to us a little bit more about, like you said, releasing the oxytocin? And I know you really love the neuroscience behind this and the physiology. So I think it'd be great to share with the audience what that looks like, and how do we know that we need 20 seconds to really allow the nervous system to calm itself?
Sure. So we all have systems in our body that regulate and or that take on stress, and we release cortisol hormones to help us deal with the stress.
Yeah.
In the situations that we're in. So what oxytocin does is it counteracts the effects of that stress hormone. It helps regulate your breathing. It helps regulate your blood pressure. So many physical health benefits with touch, and not just benefits, but just the needs that we have.
Yes, it's critical.
It is critical. It is critical. So a long held embrace, 20 seconds, and even a certainly extended touch beyond that is amazing. Like I said, your breathing starts to regulate. The people who receive touch on a regular basis, safe, good touch, on a regular basis, have exhibited much lower cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Yes, which long term is really not good for our health, as we know.
There's lots of hardening of arteries. There's just so many ill effects. So when we receive touch, it is human connection. We are hardwired to connect. There's no way around it. You can wish you weren't. You can be an introvert, and that's fine. But we have to have it. We have to have connection. And so through receiving platonic touch, and especially, well, not especially, but any touch that it feels good to you, that you want, can help you live happier and healthier lives. And that's what my mission in life is to do, is to help people live happier lives. So, where were we going with that?
I don't know, but I saw that Duke pointed out that 20 seconds feels like a long time for a lot. And he said his kids will squirm out of his arms in about 5 seconds. So with that, how would we address that? Like, what might we address the fact that one might say, at least a lot of American culture, not all, but certain segments of American culture, touch isn't a big component.
It's not.
And definitely, like Duke said, people are squirming, or they might be like, what's going on? This is weird. Why are you still holding me?
It's true. And that is very true. So it's to give someone a long held embrace, certainly permission needs to happen on both sides. Consent needs to happen on both sides. And some people are more geared to, they're huggers. I'm a hugger. You've heard that before. Well, just because someone is a hugger doesn't mean that you have to give them consent to hug you. You certainly do not. You can have and should uphold your own boundaries. And sometimes it feels better, you're more connected with someone. And so a long held hug is nice. People usually expect that of me when they come to me. They're expecting kind of a touch or a release. And so I will ask them when I first see them, would you like a hug? And they know already that I'm going to give them a long held hug. And usually what that means is, until I hear them sigh, because they're like, when you first can hug someone, you're a little tense, you're like, okay, yay, hug, hello. And then if I keep holding you, and not super tight, but just holding you, and I breathe, we tend to, even when watching a movie, and you may have even done it just now, you just breathe. It's because of that connection. So, just a long held hug you can offer someone. Yeah. And you can kind of feel like you with the children, if they squirm and want to get away, they want to escape. You can feel that. Just I would say go with what's in your body. Yeah, trust your body.
And with the signals you're picking up too from
the signals.
And something that I thought about that is being communicated when you're offering that, it sounds like you're very grounded. So you're coming from a place of, I'm grounded, I'm able to take care of myself, and now I'm able to offer this to you.
Yes.
Versus where we can get uncomfortable, and I talk with, as many of you might know, I work a lot with couples and folks that are in romantic relationships. And so a lot of times the partners will say, well, the touch felt kind of just not good. Like it was like they were needing something in themselves and they were seeking it in me. And that's not what we're talking about here. You're talking about kind of this groundedness that you offer clients. They may be needing something, but when we're talking about this exchange and how we get to this level of communication, you're striving to feel like a whole person.
Yes.
And working towards that. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on that.
So, and I would like to speak a little bit to romantic partnership, because it's a good example. We aren't necessarily raised, first of all, knowing how to know what our boundaries are. You know, we aren't taught, let's define our boundaries. We also, in general, are taught, you know, you'll have a partner, you'll grow up, you'll have a partner, and you'll promise to love, honor, and cherish your partner. And that's a beautiful thing. However, we aren't first taught to love, honor, and cherish ourselves. And I think that is a huge misstep. There's something missing. Because I think we should all be taught first that what we bring to the table is highly important. If we come without loving and honoring and cherishing ourselves, then are we coming as a whole person to this relationship? And I loved your analogy of the garden, and I loved that. How can we help tend someone's garden or tend a garden of a relationship if we first do not know how to even tend our own garden? So what I like to work with people on in these cuddle sessions, and very just, you know, as slow or as quickly as they may want to go, is having them explore their own boundaries in this safe container, this non-judgmental, non-obligatory container that we've created together, exploring their own boundaries through touch. What kind of touch do they like? They get to say so. What don't they want? What makes them feel uncomfortable? What positions, what holds, or caresses do they appreciate the most? So they get to explore what their boundaries are. And from there, now that they've learned how to communicate with themselves, they get to go out into the world. And they get to have these boundaries and communicate them in ways that are so beautiful. Maybe, for instance, with a partner. They come home, you know, from work, whatever it is, and their partner comes home and they are just like, wow, I want your attention right now. But you can say, darling, hold on for a moment. I need a minute to settle in. I need a minute. And that's their boundary. And they are not rejecting their partner in that moment. What they are doing is they're taking care of themselves. So if we can see when we say no, or we express a boundary, that we are taking care of ourselves, that is a beautiful way to think about it. And also when someone else will say, no, I don't want that, to not feel rejected. It's not necessarily personal. It doesn't have to be rejection. It can just be, that's them taking care of themselves. And because I know my own boundaries, and because I have communicated with myself first, and I know what my boundaries are, and when I say no, I'm taking care of myself, I can then understand better that when they say no, they are taking care of themselves. And that plays forward in all aspects of life, all communications.
So it has this trickle down. And it first can really start with feeling comfortable in your own body and understanding what you need. So I can tell we're getting pretty close to time. This has been really informative, and one of the things I just wanted to add to what you said was something some clients of mine shared, which was if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Absolutely. And at Cuddlist.com, that is exactly how we approach everything. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Which just makes things so much more clear, right? Like boundaries is talked about a lot, and I went out to dinner with some friends, and they were like, how often do you use the word boundaries? And I was like, well, it's very important.
It is. It's very daily, yes.
But I really like how you break it down, because it can feel like this very big abstract concept, and you make it, you just help your clients and our audience just really simplify it as, okay, it's like, what feels good in my body, what doesn't feel good in my body, and then when you start to understand that, then you can apply it to emotional, mental parts of our lives, right? But if we can first understand what it feels like in our body and what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and really just taking care of ourselves, it just has such a huge impact on our health.
It does. Yeah, it does, truly.
Any last thoughts?
Hug someone. Yeah,
that's the lesson. That's the lesson today.
Yeah, hug
and
someone.
really hug them.
Really hug them, and with consent, of course. And just listen to your body when you hug them. Listen to their bodies. Listen to your own body. It's amazing. Yeah,
and you just settle in.
Yeah.
It's good for that nervous system.
Yes.
Well, so we really enjoyed you guys joining us today. Please, Creseda's information, I'll include that in the comments. So if you would like to learn more, your website is called again, Touch of Heart.
Touch of Heart. Touch-of-heart.com.
Yes, so you can get more information. There's more resources out there. And with this holiday season, it just, like you were saying, give some hugs. With consent, and we are glad you joined us, and take care.
Bye.